Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Eastern Chronicles. Let's carry on where we left off. We've got our first full case of the game right here at case number 4. Our client, of course, is Mr. Soseki Natsume, the real-life scholar who's visited Britain at this particular moment in history, accused of stabbing a woman in the back, thanks to the great detective Herlock Sholmes and his remarkable deduction. Unfortunately, it may be misguided because his dance partner wasn't there, so we better make our way towards the crime scene post-haste. It is here at Briar Road, the scene of the crime. Alright, 19th of February, Briar Road, looking pretty empty, it seems. We got a bike with a munted wheel, Scotland Yard officers, a snowman. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, the snowman. What? The barricade? Look at that regulation metal helmet, it's unmistakable. Oh, the helmet? The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. Yeah, I would suspect so. I mean, this is a crime scene, is it not? That is their job, you know. But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, but I never dreamt I'd ever come this close. Well, you ought to be thanking me for getting that not guilty verdict for Mr. McGilded, although he has become Mr. McGrilded, as that wonderful comment pointed out. To real Bobby's helmet. What? The helmet? He? Of course. I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your hatty dream comes true. I suppose we can, have a conversation with Lady first. Maybe you can get your hands on one regulation Scotland Yard helmet. Oh, Inspector Gregson. Fancy seeing you here. You don't look too pleased to see us. What's the Japanese delegation doing here? Oh, Inspector Gregson, what do you think? We've been assigned this case. You were there at the prosecutor's office. This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, of course. We're here to investigate. We're not defendants, sorry. God, we're defenders. I've just been used to being a defendant because, 2 cases, basically. I had to prevent myself from suffering capital punishment. So you've been to the holding cells, then? What do you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. Yeah. But, now that I think about it, if you take someone to court, they're not the suspect anymore. They are a defendant, which is what I kind of called myself by accident. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. You're not wrong about that. Well, do what you will. Doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion. Guilty or not guilty, he's probably going to end up dead. Ugh. The stone-cold air of rejection. Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone-cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Alright, well, Inspector Gregson, let's have a conversation about Scotland Yard. Tell us all about it. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. I heard it's not actually located in Scotland, it's here in London. What's the deal with that? Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, I've been fascinated by the place. It's a police station. The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. While we're at it, can I please borrow one? It does make them look the part. Seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes! Doesn't he look wonderful? Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you. I've just got a regular hat myself. Oh, really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and rouses all the labourers on his beat so they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up? Yep. Raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit. Huh. I had no idea. Yes. Hopefully they invent something called an alarm clock, and people can snooze it whenever they want. The Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. Damn. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. Sounds like a pretty thankless job, huh? I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. Let me just do my converter here. 20 miles. That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. All the facts are in this book. I gotta get me this book. I swear to God. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my. So he has no life at all. And I suppose in between all of those duties, bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit. Probably falling to their knees, though. Oh, dear. I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. Well, you know the responsibility it entails, Susato. You can wake me up in the morning. You can go for long walks with me. And then you can light my fire at night. I mean, the gas lamp by my bedside. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. You don't have to relinquish anything to me, thank you. I'm busy. I'm the defense attorney. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. Alright, about the case. Please, tell us. We're not tourists, I promise. It happened around 5 in the evening, 2 days ago. Just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's the odd policy to give lawyers defending suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. The local map has been entered into the court record. Okay, a street map of the local area showing where the victim was found. I'd love to take a look at it. Let's have a glance, shall we? We got Briar Road, Calabash Road, and Sholmes Street. What's the street at the bottom? Doesn't say. Okay. Excellent. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. Herlock Sholmes did his little dance of deduction, almost slipped on the ice a couple times. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. What? We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less. Oh yeah, well, I've heard this whole proclamation before about reliable witnesses. More than one, in fact, usually. And they always seem to be in cahoots with each other to cover up something. Oh. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now? Okay, well, elucidate further about these witnesses. Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. Oh, really? He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Ah, a copper? Huh. A policeman? What was he doing up late at night? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked. Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Not having it as a hobby. Catching them banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Or am I going to have to cross-examine him tomorrow and embarrass you all in court? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow? I knew it. Oh, okay. I guess the courtesy extended by Scotland Yard doesn't extend to witnesses. I've no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that, then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. Wonder what he looks like. policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Oh, I'm surprised you didn't need your book to tell us that. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh, yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? That lunatic? That doofus? That absolute embarrassment? Was it something I said? The color was drained from his cheeks. Mr. Sholmes, I gotta ask about him. Where is he? I want to do a little tango. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was the result of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle faddle! Ah! The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Well, he's the one who pointed the finger at our client, and you're so sure it's him, so what does that tell you? Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? I want to say eccentric, but astounding was the first word that came to my mind, and I think it's an appropriate one at that. He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Right? Tell me.
Gibble gabble!
Ah!
Ever seen this before?
Oh, yes, I've seen that way too many times in my life. That's Rant's magazine.
The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Herlock Sholmes appears.
Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Herlock Sholmes tale at all.
Well, I suppose there is an element of that.
We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us as Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. So he is dangerous.
That can't really be true, can it, Inspector?
Clearly, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, tomorrow's trial. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, about that. I showed him my armband. He's convinced I came all the way here from Japan to represent him, which is half true. I did come here all the way here from Japan. I suppose you could say 3/4 because I came here to learn law, so technically I do have to represent him. But I haven't taken up the case yet.
Makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case of the barge pole.
Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean?
There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though.
Sorry?
The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. And no one ended up dying. Thankfully enough.
Yes, we did hear something to that effect.
And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals, the violent ones.
Hence why he probably came to take care of Mr. McGilded and roast him in the fires of hell before sending him to real hell. But what about Mr. Natsume here? Master criminals.
The violent ones?
That's right. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins.
Handpicks his victims? Oh, God. But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. He just, apparently, not saying he did, hypothetically stabbed a woman in the back. It's not even murder.
That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase.
Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it?
No, there's got to be more to it. For some reason he's taken an interest.
I wonder, he just wants a rematch because he knows I'm going to be taking this one up. Or he wants to investigate all of his Nipponese friends.
Really? What sort of reason, Inspector?
You think I can tell you what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. afraid I'm surrounded by a lot of different characters. I'm just an ordinary inspector. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it. It's a bit much, isn't it? The Lord of Darkness. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Guess it's time to investigate the scene.
Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion?
Oh, yes. What is it, my judicial assistant?
Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this.
By him? Do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Do we need to go to 221B Baker Street?
Yes! Mr. Herlock Sholmes, exactly! I kind of want to be involved in another adventure.
Look at those shining eyes. Can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. It's just an extra bonus.
The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address even, so how—
It's Baker Street.
Don't take me down. How do you know that?
It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street. The man doxes himself, the most famous address in the world.
Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. She almost tossed me into the snow just then.
Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage.
Okay. Didn't realize we have magic spells on us, so we're to have a reunion already. With the great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Fantastic. Alright, well, before we do that, can we at least examine the crime scene? I'm kind of curious about what's going on here. The snowman.
What a delightful snowman. Didn't realize this was here. I was kind of obsessed with their hats.
I didn't realize the English had a tradition of making snowmen as well. It's a little creepy, though.
Oh, it has a scarf. Look.
You'd need one if you were out in this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one. Are you not cold, Susato? That dress, or the kimono, sorry, looks a bit, summery, if I had to guess, especially the way those sleeves hang.
I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment, too. We certainly can't afford a scarf.
Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his.
But the person who made the snowman certainly would.
Yes, I know. You're right. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much to warm my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. I don't want to face against the Reaper of the Bailey for a simple misdemeanor.
Oh, that's the Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like that to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals.
You're very well informed, aren't you? I wonder if they have, police pursuits.
It's long been a dream of mine to ride one of those through the streets of London.
Oh, what, as a criminal? Well, just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows then. Or steal the scarf.
But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it. Wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way... Help me find a good stone!
No, I wasn't serious. This patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred.
Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it?
That's true. I can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding. Oi! What are you foreigners doing here? Ah! Oh, we just investigating the scene. Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are you? Conspiring? Come here to destroy evidence, have you? Get out of here before I give you an hiding. Go on. Okay, sorry. Damn, we're not welcome anywhere.
You shoot us away like rats.
Yes, we should give him a wide berth, I think.
What a disappointing experience.
It's okay, maybe if we steal one of their hats, we can infiltrate the crime scene, and they'll be none the wiser. That's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons. Gave that away.
I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern.
Oh, no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what was going on.
Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure that's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all.
Ugh. Got a bike?
Oh, a British bicycle, look! Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore.
Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling.
It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dresses to allow them to ride as well.
Oh, really? The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Seriously, it's got 2 wheels, for goodness sake. You have to balance, you have to do all the work yourself.
Goodness, do you dislike bicycles?
No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. I just think it's a fad. It's not going to catch on. Just like, I don't know, motor vehicles. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and fallen into a river, I know you'd agree with me.
That's oddly specific. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's, oh wow. What's going on over here? The windows are broken above the door.
That's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history.
Well, time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. It's practically the Leaning Tower of Pisa, here in London.
We must find some cheap lodging ourselves as soon as possible.
We're not staying here. Yes, you're right. Cheap, but ideally with reasonably level floors, please. I want to wake up and not be on a slope. There are piles of snow on the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks.
It seems carriages often travel down Briar Road. It soon disperses all the snow.
Although no one seems to be traveling up and down now. I slipped over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. Seems like it would be far safer to walk on the road instead. I'm telling you this because somehow you didn't realize I'd fallen, Susato. You just kept walking. You left me in the snow.
Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Naruhodo. Maybe that's why I didn't notice you. And you're dressed all in black. I worry coachman might not see you, and you could be flattened by horses.
Well, thank you for the rather small concern. Last but not least, oh, look at the windows of that building there.
Are you sure they're windows?
Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks.
Oh, you're right. I wonder why.
Interesting.
Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment.
There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though. It's so cold that they closed the windows permanently with bricks.
Oh dear, everything still feels very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place.
Well, surely you could just spend a week or two reading your amazing Wikipedia book. A new location has been added. It's Sholmes' Suite, 221B Baker Street, the home and office of the most famous detective in the world.
Can we really visit, you think?
I guess we can. Oh, we even get an anime cutscene of it. Awesome. We're here. The snow's all gone, at least. And my coat as well.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Okay.
Thanks again.
221B. Pretty sure
This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Pretty sure he pointed down the street. But Susato looks very excited. Ah, look at that. Hoo-wee. 19th of February, 12:53 p.m. Sholmes' Suite, his inner sanctum. So this is where the great detective makes his living. Feels surreal to be here somehow. Where is he? His violin is there. Is it as described in the stories, Miss Susato? Susato-san, don't tell me you're possessed or something. Oh.
Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room.
Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the stories, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be.
The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, I suppose I can. Yeah, sure. My heart pumping right on my chest.
So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer.
Okay, you do that. What the hell is this place? Like, honestly, there's a fancy-ass machine on the left. We got, I don't know, If I didn't know any better, I'd say bullet holes up top there. Got a globe, a violin. It's so messy. Where's Mrs. Hudson?
Please, don't mind me.
She's obsessed. Well, where is the great detective? Well, looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Kind of just barged in here. We could practically rob the place. Excuse me. Is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Oh, it's you!
Hello. Is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes?
Hello. Wait. Aren't you Muiruma?
Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once.
Okay. I'm sure it's the same girl. Miss Lestrade's friend. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here?
Oh, yes. Isn't that truly extraordinary?
Yes, the girl is truly extraordinary. You're quite right. What?
To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case.
The King of Whereia?
King Wilhelm Gottstrich Sigismund von Ornstein, of course.
Of course. Yes, the old KWGSVO. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Could you repeat that slowly? Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. Right there. That tiny little kid there.
The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you.
I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too.
Ah, there you are.
That explains the gun, of course.
And taking it with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine.
It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilded's trial in the defendant's antechamber.
I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London.
Yeah, well, I need the money, okay? I can't afford these, extravagant suites that I really want to stay in. Oh, yes, it was challenging.
Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know.
Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? I'm scared. Did you invent a new kind of tea?
Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you?
Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely.
Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea.
So, were you living here by yourself while he was aboard the SS Briar?
I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas.
Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Oh my god. Is Herlock Sholmes already writing up his adventure aboard the ship, and he included us in it? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point, well, it seems everyone knows who we are anyway.
Why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I?
Nice curtsy.
It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson.
Oh, Wilson. Oh my. Are you Dr. Wilson's daughter?
I live here together with Hurley.
Iris, is it? What a lovely name.
What?
What's the matter?
No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson?
What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? What does Wilson even mean anyway? I don't know anyone by that name.
Yes, that's right. What are your names?
Oh,
I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan.
Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it.
Susie and Runo.
Susie?
And Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start, although I did like that pun, Ryunosuke, because her name is Iris, and she's more than meets the eye. Very clever.
Yes, and so do I.
Well, please explain yourself after I present my armband. I pressed R for the first time this time. Iris, could I show you this?
Oh, how exciting! What is it? Tell me all about it.
Oh, actually, I was hoping you might be able to tell me something about it if anything comes to mind. You know, what do you think?
Why would it? It's a stupid armband.
Well, no, I suppose it wouldn't. Great deduction.
Tell me, I want to hear everything.
This hasn't gone according to plan. Alright, you'd think that by this entry in the Ace Attorney franchise, they just have a response from everyone. You present the Ace Attorney badge or the armband in this case too. Converse with Iris. Wilson, your deductions just now. Let's start with who she is. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey.
Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming.
Though at the time we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. And I valued my breathing. Oh my god!
Like this? Thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you?
Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade.
Oh, Ginny? Yes, she's a professional pickpocket.
So we found out.
It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that.
Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption?
Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back.
Well, you certainly need to work on allowing its user to reload faster, because god damn, it takes a long time. It's basically reloading a light machine gun in any first-person shooter.
Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions.
This girl is dangerous. Especially since she's left by herself.
Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician.
Sorry, your technician?
Hurley, of course, silly.
Hurley?
Yes, Herlock Sholmes. We live here together.
I was struggling, I don't know why. I was like, Hurley? How does that match, like, Sherlock? But then I forgot. His name is Herlock. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter, even though you don't have his surname.
Daughter? Not likely.
What?
I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? I don't think he sleeps around very much.
Well then,
What is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate.
oh, and I suppose you're earning enough money to contribute your half of the rent? Your roommates?
I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at least this year. 10 at last this year.
Well, what of your mother and father?
Oh no, they're not around.
Oh, I see. Wonder what the story is there. Wilson, please explain.
Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I am a very great fan of the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, and oh, you have a copy of Rance magazine.
Wait, so the Dr. Wilson in Japan was a red herring, and you're the Dr. Wilson, even though you're 10 years old? I see. Interesting. Another subversion. I like it.
Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world.
My stories?
That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see. He tells me all about them.
And so that's your voice narrating at the beginning of each case?
They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night, he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land.
I knew it! I knew that's how she came to know about us.
So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came.
Sorry, Susato. We've been spoiled on this one.
So you are the author? Yes. I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band.
The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar.
Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble.
Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yeah. I suppose you're doing that so it's more accurate to what his deduction was. Instead of correcting his deduction, you're just gonna change the facts of the case.
Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you?
Yeah, you gotta add a bit of color to it, you know? God, my voice is gonna be ruined after all this, doing Susato and Iris's voice, especially Iris's. She's just a young kid. Whew.
So, do you mean to say, are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rand's magazine all written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. I kind of fluffed the stories up a bit, so it wasn't exactly the king who came here that one time that you were just mumbling about a couple of minutes ago, but actually the Nigerian prince. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson.
Sato-san's getting more and more worked up.
Yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? And the John H? That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine.
No! At 10 years old?
At 10 years old.
Well, that's quite incredible. Otherwise, London just kind of gives out their qualifications willy-nilly. Again, we don't know how things are done here in this foreign land.
But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. I was hoping to court him. I was a big fan. I was writing fan letters. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly, for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes.
Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world is just falling apart. Never meet your heroes, Susato. You should know this. We ran the very risk of it coming to 221B Baker Street. We even met the man. Alright, your deductions just now. Please enlighten us. About before.
Yes? Yes? What's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. I'm hungry for knowledge.
How did you know that I was a lawyer and we'd just arrived in London, I mean? The armband probably was the first clue.
Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although, there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin.
Oh, we're gonna do a dots of deduction with you?
Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular.
Oh my god. She does it too?
First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Bruno. I already knew it already. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber.
But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that?
I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket.
Oh.
So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs.
The Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I? And then we've got Susato there with a stamp on her hand. I swear that wasn't there before.
Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with the suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Oh. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realise. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded,
I like how I still have that wide-eyed, fearful face.
the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case.
I see. You're much better at this than Hurley, you know that?
How could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling.
A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Soseki Natsume.
Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword.
That's Cosmo's soul, thank you very much.
I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case.
She's good.
There's a note on the mantelpiece that says that the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley's always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions.
Holy shit. Well,
was it a winner? Were my deductions correct?
they were spot on. I can't believe it. I didn't even need to dance with you. I was supposed to just stand here and take it.
That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction.
You even managed to ascertain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Why aren't you the great detective? Why are you writing his adventures?
Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that.
Yeah, well, his style tends to get things wrong just to embellish the facts.
This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please?
Please. I mean, we know Herlock Sholmes has that kind of reputation, but if you can get your great deductions correct, what is your opinion of the case of the Japanese man? So, yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying?
Yes.
And he didn't consult you whatsoever?
Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage. But the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene.
And you don't think he was just a little bit rusty? You know, we were out at sea, that ocean air will rust anything. The great detective is a popular man, it seems. Unless Inspector Gregson is on the job.
Apparently a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume.
Beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. But it seems there were witnesses after all. Through the fog, too, in fact.
Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room, very nearby. He went directly there with the police. And what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man, shivering in fear.
Ugh. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time.
Of course it did. He's a great detective.
Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it?
Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly.
Yeah, right? Well, shit. It doesn't get any better.
Hurley says that London is rife with crime.
Oh.
Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I hadn't realised the situation was so dire.
I guess the prisons fill up real quick, so they need to expedite court proceedings.
That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court.
Yeah, it's like fast food, like order up. One Japanese man guilty of stabbing a woman in the back.
Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person.
And what, they just get hung?
That's terrible. Oh dear, I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's amazing. Great. Perfect, in fact. I suppose it is? But in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Looks like it's up to us. Well, thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative.
Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, well, you're quite the pleasant child. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well.
Ah, well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene.
Oh, well, I didn't see him, but for all I know, he was underneath the Scotland Yard cart, or he was in the snowman, for all I know. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, Mr. Nuts... Oh, Ume? Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there?
Yes, we know Inspector Gregson, and, he doesn't seem too pleased to know us.
Ah, goody. In that case... Give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know.
What is this, a get-out-of-jail-free card or something?
A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems.
Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record card for Inspector Gregson with a message on the back from Iris. I know it's mighty rude. Oh, never mind. Susato's going to read it for us. I thought I'd need to examine it.
It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it?
Oh, should have just forged this message in the first place. Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Okay. Well, it's been pleasant.
Good luck then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea. So come back again soon.
Depends on how our meeting with Herlock Sholmes goes.
We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris.
Alright, back to the crime scene, are we? Heading off to?
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime.
So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Didn't get a chance to examine the parlor, unfortunately. But it's about time we reunited with the great detective Herlock Sholmes.